And are you ready, Frank? It's time to learn the Magnus method with former kickboxing champion himself, Mr. Dan Magnus. So let's welcome Dan to the show. Dan, you're live on Totally Driven Radio. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing great. So you're like, how can I say this? Besides the fact that you're totally driven. I mean, you really are. I mean, reading your bio and about you, I mean, wow. You had 2 open heart surgeries, and you still, the main thing in your whole determination was to get back in that ring.
Right. I was in a bad car accident, and I broke my ribs, and one of my ribs tore my aortic valve. I didn't even know it. I just thought I had broken ribs. And I healed 6 months, and then I went to fight, and it was there at the pre-fight physical, the day of the fight that I was going to fight for the title. They said, you had a heart murmur, and I'm like, okay, you've done me before. I've never had this. And they said, no, we don't even know what this sound is. So they wouldn't let me fight, and I was like, I went crazy, because it was my title shot. It was my dream. But they wouldn't let me fight. The state of New Jersey, the State Athletic Commission wouldn't let me do it. So I went back home. I lived in Washington, D.C. I worked for the government. I did stuff. I was in fugitive recovery. So the National Institute of Health knew that I was an athlete, and they saw me as a guinea pig. So they said, well, let us find out what's wrong with you. And they listened, and they said, this is a heart murmur we've never heard before. It's not natural. So they did a catheterization, and they found out that my rib hit my heart and ripped the aortic valve. So I said, okay, well, can you fix it and I can fight again? They went, no, we have to go in like heart surgery, like open heart surgery, and fix this valve, but you can't fight again. I go, no, that's not possible. I got to fight again. And then one of the doctors, who was a black belt of mine, said, we could fix it, and if he gets back in shape, maybe he could do it. So they basically told me I could fight again, really to shut me up just so I would get the heart surgery. And a year to the day of my open heart surgery, I won the title. It was pretty funny because it was in Jersey again, and when I won, the doctor didn't check the guy I beat up. He checked me. Like, he's checking my heart, and I'm like, shouldn't you be checking the guy that I just beat up? They had my whole surgical team at ringside. They flew in, and the promoter paid for the guys that did my open heart surgery to be at ringside. I mean, I don't know what he thought was going to happen. Like, if I had a heart attack, they were going to do surgery in the ring. But they got a free trip to Atlantic City and got to see the fight.
Now, when you got into the car accident up until that fight where they said you couldn't fight, how much of a time was in between?
I broke my ribs, and it was about 6 months before I could fight.
So you didn't have any fights leading up?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I was, because my ribs were broke. They tape you. They don't really cast you. They just wrap an ace bandage around you and tape you really tight so you can't move your ribs. And it was 6 months that it took to heal, and then I'd say 2 months to train for the fight. Because I even trained with my broken ribs. I would, work out and all that. I just didn't get hit there. I'm a little crazy. I just, when I have something prepared in my mind, nothing stops me. And that's what I do now. I teach personal protection. Biggest thing is, perseverance. Just never quit. The word no is not in my vocabulary. I might find it really difficult, but I'm going to get it done.
Okay, you say you're a little crazy. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was reading, when you found out and the doctor wouldn't let you fight that initial time for the championship, you choked the doctor?
Yeah, I grabbed him by the neck and said, you are going to let me fight. And Jeff Smith, who was the light heavyweight champion of the world, was in my corner. He was like, Dan, let him go. I mean, come on. He's the doctor of the Jersey State Athletic Commission. I go, I don't give a shit. Sorry. I don't care. I want to fight. That's it. But they wouldn't let me fight. And then I was determined to fight again. And I did. And then I fought and defended the title. I lost it, and then I won it back. Then I retired, and then I decided to come back in like 92, 93. I won the North American title, and then I went to fight for the world title again, and I had a cough, and I thought I had the flu, but the stitches that they had in my heart ripped open. 2 of them ripped open. There were 3 of them. And I fought for the world title, and I got knocked down in the first round. I got up, finished the first round. Second round, I knocked him down. But then when I sat down after the second round, I was like breathing so hard. I didn't know what. They thought maybe the punch in the first round hurt me. And the third round, the bell went off. I stood up and I collapsed.
Wow.
The guy didn't even hit me. I just collapsed. I woke up at the hospital. They thought I had a brain aneurysm. And they said, you're in congestive heart failure. You need to do a second heart surgery. So they replaced my whole aortic valve with a metal one. So now I tick. My heart is a quarter of it's made of metal. My whole aortic valve is made of metal. So after that, kickboxing was kind of dying then. You know, MMA started. So I started doing exhibition fights, and that's how I got into pro wrestling. I did an exhibition fight for Chuck Norris's Kick Drugs Out of America to show endurance, and I did 60 rounds, 6-0, with 10 different sparring partners, with the last 10 sparring partners being from WCW, wrestlers that really didn't know how to kickbox, but it was just for show. In fact, the last guy to fight me was Eric Bischoff.
Really?
Yeah, Eric Bischoff. Sonny Ono was the second to last, and Eric Bischoff, no one knew it. And then all of a sudden it was the last round. I'm exhausted. I've been in the ring for 3.5 hours. And all of a sudden Eric Bischoff with Brian Adams and Diamond Dallas Page come walking to the ring. Because Eric's a black belt, and he's kickboxed before, but he never made it, you know, in the top 10. And he challenged me 1 round. And it was all the work. I mean, we're sparring, and at the I didn't even know what we're doing. I'm so tired. He goes, Dan, kick me in the head. I go, man, I don't know if I can. I'm really tired. I threw a round kick to his head, and I swear to God, Brian Adams was acting like the referee, the bad referee. Eric sold it so well that Brian really thought I knocked him out.
Wow.
And it was, I mean, we raised $15,000 for Chuck Norris's Kick Drugs Out of America. This was 1998.
Now, have you ever, sparred or trained with Chuck Norris at all?
I've never sparred with him. I know him really well. He introduced me to Arnold Schwarzenegger in 98, 3 weeks before Arnold had his heart surgery.
Okay.
Arnold, I was introduced to him. It was a really funny thing. They were at the Arnold Classic, and they put me in the ring. Then they introduced Chuck Norris, which was cool. You know, I know Chuck for a while. Then they introduced Arnold, and then that was it. Just us 3 in the ring. And I was like, okay, what's wrong with this picture? Chuck Norris, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and in the middle, Dan Magnus. Now, I'm pretty known in the karate world, but not like this. And I look at Chuck Norris, I go, what's going on? And Chuck goes, I have no idea. Because he didn't call anybody up. And Arnold went to me, so did it hurt when you had heart surgery? I go, I don't know. I slept through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then he didn't tell anybody, and then we found out 3-4 weeks later he was having heart surgery. So, and it wasn't from steroids. It was called a microvalve prolapse. One of the smaller valves in his heart was just weak because of age. You know,
so in other words, should we make a call and try to get you in the Expendables 3 to reunite you with Arnold and Chuck Norris?
Yeah, that'd be funny. Hey, it'd be their age. I'm 57 years old. You know, so,
well, compared to them, I think you're younger than them. So.
Well, I think Arnold was, 63? Stallone's 64.
Right. And Chuck Norris, I think he's in his 70s.
Yeah, he's 72.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chuck's a great guy. You know, he one of the nicest guys in the world. I mean, don't mess with him, but he's one of the nicest guys in the world. he was really good to me when I came back after the heart surgery. You know,
now,
he was one of the few that believed in me.
Now, you started, I guess, with karate. Is that how you would get started in kickboxing?
Right. You know, see, everybody gets so confused. Karate, you know, in the 60s, when they did martial arts, everybody called it judo because it was from the Army. Then it became karate. Then the Bruce Lee thing came, and Kung Fu got big. Then in the 80s, PKA made kickboxing. They called it full contact karate because they didn't want to have boxing in the name, but it took over. Then it became PKA kickboxing. Then MMA. Then MMA started. So MMA is basically karate is karate. A punch is, like Bruce Lee said, a punch is a punch, kick is a kick. You know, I mean, if anything, if you see Enter the Dragon, the very beginning scene of Enter the Dragon is Bruce Lee doing MMA.
Right.
He's fighting the heavy-set guy, puts him in an arm lock, and the guy taps out. And no one even thought of MMA back then. So, you know, yeah, I took Aikido when I was 12. I got a black belt in Aikido, and I got a black belt in Goju-Ryu style karate.
And you started training when you were 13.
Right. I got my black belt when I was 15.
Which was back in
1968.
Which was, I guess, coming up on the time when Bruce Lee was really starting to break big in the early 70s.
Bruce Lee was Kato.
Right.
My instructor was Rui Delgado. Rui Delgado fought Chuck Norris in Madison Square Garden at Henry Cho's tournament in 1968. And he beat Chuck Norris at that tournament. Then Chuck invited Rui to California to train with him. Rui met Bruce Lee, and that's when he came back and changed everything. We didn't go barefoot anymore. He made us wear wrestling shoes because he went, you know, Bruce Lee told him, hey, you're not walking down the streets of L.A. or New York barefoot, are you? Then why the hell are you training barefoot? So I was trained a really American style of martial arts from the very beginning, and that's what I do today. You know, people always ask me, what style should I take that's best? Whichever style you like. Whatever style you feel you're going to be good at, you just practice it. Because when it comes down to it, whether it's Kung Fu, Taekwondo, karate, you put a pair of gloves on, it's the same. Just punch and kick them. You know, the style is the stance you're standing in.
So now I don't know the actual. What is like the actual difference like between like Kung Fu and judo? And
here's the easiest thing, and I get in a lot of trouble with martial artists. Kung Fu is the Chinese word. Taekwondo is the Korean word, and karate is the Japanese word. It all means the way of the fist.
Gotcha.
But karate is Japanese, Kung Fu is Chinese, Taekwondo is Korean. It's language. They all mean the same thing.
Gotcha.
Now, the style's a little different. In Taekwondo, they do a lot because of climate. Koreans kick more, so there's more kicking in Taekwondo. In Kung Fu, they're more artistic because of wushu and stuff. And karate from Japan is more, you know, hardcore. But it's really all the same.
Now, how long did you do?
See them.
I was going to say, how long did you train with martial arts before you started going into kickboxing?
I started when I was 13, and I started kickboxing when I was 21.
Now, what made you want to go into kickboxing?
Well, I used to do the tournament scene, and back then the tournament scene was you can hit them hard once, but they keep stopping it and calling the points.
Gotcha.
And I was like always getting disqualified for hitting too hard. So someone said to me once, why don't you get into kickboxing? You know, you like to hit people, and you don't care if you get hit back. So I went to Washington, D.C. to train with Jeff Smith, who was the light heavyweight champion of the world. And I asked him to be, you know, he asked me, hey, you want to be my sparring partner? So I did, and I didn't really know how to kickbox, and for like a week and a half, he beat the living crap out of me. I mean, I was like a human heavy bag. And I thought my brainstem came loose, you know, one night. But I kept coming back, and he was like, you're neither crazy or you're going to be a champion. and I fell in love with it. See, I graduated John Jay College of Criminal Justice with a degree in criminology and a degree in kinesiology. And I was going to be a New York City cop. And I was a cop for about 6 months in 1976, and the city went bankrupt. And I didn't have a job, so I went to D.C. to work at the karate school, and I made good money, so I never went back when they tried to hire me back in New York.
Wow.
So my background was in police work already.
Huh.
You know, and kickboxing was just, you know, I got obsessed with it. And I trained with Bill Superfoot Wallace, and Jeff Smith, who were from Washington, D.C., so I had these idols, and I just wanted to be the champion. And I was obsessed with it.
Yeah. So then when you retired in 88, do you think at that point that you retired too early?
Yeah, I did, because I came back in 94, and I won the North American title, and that's when I went and fought for the world title for the third time, but I didn't win it because I ripped the heart again. But, you know, in 88, I got married, I had a kid, I decided to move to Hawaii. I thought it was going to be, you know, okay, I can handle it, but I couldn't handle it. You know, I love to fight.
Sure.
Well, you know, I got back into fighting. After I came back after my second heart surgery, that's when I did the exhibition fight. You know, I did a 48-round one, and I did a 60-round one. And then that's how I got involved in pro wrestling, because after Eric Bischoff, I said to Eric after we went to dinner, and I went, you know, I can teach this wrestling stuff. It's just like stunt fighting. It's the opposite of real fighting. You just got to sell it. And
right.
he was like, show me. So I went to a power plant that was in Atlanta.
Yes.
And Diamond Dallas Page is my age. And, you know, he started wrestling when he was 38. All he wanted to do was be a manager. But he was
right.
bigger than the two guys that he was managing, Tanaka and Paul Diamond. And they said, why don't you just become a wrestler? And he goes, I'm 36 years old. But him and me trained at power plant like crazy. And that's when I developed a way to teach wrestling that would be real easy. And then I moved to Denver, Colorado, and I opened up my own pro wrestling school.
Oh, really?
With Eric Bischoff's blessing, basically. He fed me a lot of WCW wrestlers that would come in and help me with the training and all that. And then I started putting shows on. I used to own the CWO, which was the Central Wrestling Organization.
Okay.
And I was friends with Roddy Piper because he was into karate, and he came to a couple of my fights. And in 2001, Piper got fired from WCW, and basically wanted to show he could still draw. So he calls me up and says, Dan, you're doing a show in 2 weeks. I want to be there. I went, all right, well, come down. He goes, no, I want to be in it. I went, you're kidding me. So he flies me to Cauliflower Alley Club to talk to me. He goes, I want to show them that I can still draw. I go, yeah, but I still have to advertise.
Yeah.
We got 5,000 people to come to that show. It was like the biggest independent show, you know, there ever was. But I spent almost $10,000 in advertising. You know, I could have had Hulk Hogan there. If I didn't tell anybody, nobody would have came.
This is true. The lovely world of professional wrestling, which, again, I guess this goes back to saying that you were told you were crazy, because I know when I was training to become a pro wrestler, the school I was going to was the old Tri-State Wrestling Alliance school, which later became ECW. But the person that was running at the time, the promoter, Joel Goodhart, he told us flat out, to become a pro wrestler and to step inside that ring, you are absolutely crazy. There's something wrong with you to want to be in that ring. And it sounds kind of similar like when you were training with the kickboxing and then also at wrestling. So there's definitely a crazy side to all of us to want to step into that ring.
Oh, yeah. The biggest thing, you know, and it's been said, you know, Sylvester Stallone said it best in Rocky. It's not how hard you hit, it's how hard you get hit, and you keep going.
Yep.
You know, same thing with pro wrestling. I mean, it's self-abuse. You know, and they do it 265 days out of the year.
Right.
You know, I mean, from Friday till Tuesday, they're wrestling. They got Wednesday to go home and Thursday to do their laundry, and then they're back on the road.
Yep. Well, speaking about
one of the
getting...
things I went to wrestling for, was to see if I could take on big guys.
Now, were you a fan of wrestling before you got into it?
I always liked wrestling, and it was really funny. I defended my title in Florida a lot, and on Friday nights was the old NWA and Dusty Rhodes and Rick Rude, and then would wrestle, and then Saturday the same promoter would promote kickboxing.
Oh, no
so
kidding.
I got to be friends with a lot of these wrestlers.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, it was, and then when Eric Bischoff took over WCW, and Sonny Ono was the featherweight kickboxing champion of the world.
Okay.
And him and Sonny Ono, and Eric, got his black belt in Minnesota from a guy who took from me and opened up schools in Minnesota. So he went, Dan, we're karate guys and we know how to do business. And the problem was they got too successful, and it went to everybody's head. Remember, Nitro won 86 consecutive weeks over Raw.
Right.
But people don't realize it's because Eric gave everybody guaranteed contracts.
Yep. Yeah, it's
so
funny.
You still got paid.
We were supposed to have Eric Bischoff's business partner on tonight, Jason Hervey. They own a production company together. But he had to reschedule because they're shooting something tonight or something or other. But, something you said, too, you mentioned the Rocky, what Rocky said about being, hit hard and getting back up. Going back to yourself again, and even in your personal life, showing the type of character you have, you said, in your bio, it said after your open heart surgery, the first one that you had, you lost everything. You lost all your money, your house, your wife, your dog, and you still came back and you fought back.
Yeah. You see, right now, these days, I teach personal protection. I don't like to call it self-defense. I call it personal protection. And the biggest thing is it's not how well you punch, not how well you kick, it's your mindset. You can't quit. You've got to keep going. Because no matter how bad things get, you have no choice. You got to keep going. I had people that thought I was absolutely crazy to try to even fight again. But it was my passion. And I try to teach people today, when they protect themselves, it's your passion to protect yourself. So never give up. Anybody who says to me, oh, life's too hard, I can't do this, get over it. Get over it and just do what you have to do. I've had it all, I've lost it all, I get it back. I don't know how to quit, and people go to me all the time. They go, I wish I had your perseverance. And it's like, to me, it's not perseverance. It's just life. You just got to keep going. You just can't stop. Things get in your way. I have a philosophy in life. There's always a wall in front of you. You can go over it, you can go around it, or you can go under it, or you can do like me and go straight through it. But I'm going to get on the other side of that wall.
Yeah, with you, I believe it. So, you mentioned UFC and MMA. Did you ever think, you were there before it all really started and you saw it explode into what it is now. Did you expect or think that it would really get as big as it is?
Yes and no. There's a little backstory to MMA that people don't know. And basically, MMA was started by the Gracies because they wanted publicity, and they were so good at it because they're the only ones that knew the rules. And then when it got better, Dana White took the formula from Vince McMahon and did The Ultimate Fighter, which was really like what Vince McMahon did with Tough Enough.
Right.
And Vince McMahon almost owns USA Network. And Vince allowed the USA Network to put Ultimate Fighting in. So, I don't know this for a fact, but I swear to God, I think Vince is the third hidden partner of UFC. I can't confirm that, but I really, really think it. Because
I wouldn't be surprised.
UFC and MMA is a blood sport. Because of those little gloves and everything, they allow, people get cut real easy, and
Mm-hmm.
They allow blood to flow where they'd never let that in boxing.
Right.
I've been to UFC fights where the whole ring was covered with blood. They would have stopped a boxing or kickboxing match in a heartbeat. But it's a blood sport. And you watch UFC guys or MMA guys fight and they practice boxing, but when they get in the ring, they're not boxing because those gloves are too small. And those gloves cut. And, they still haven't really figured out how to smoothly go from the kicking, the punching, to the grappling and all that. And it's still the most exciting thing people watch in MMA is when a guy gets kicked to the head.
Yeah.
Over everything else. Even if he taps out because of a Kimura or any kind of arm lock, it's the kick or the punch that everybody loves.
Yeah, yeah. You hear it as you're watching, the ooh or the ah.
Right, because of the kicks and the punches. So, and it takes a little. Look, anybody who gets in the ring, like you said, has to be a little crazy. But it doesn't matter if they're a champion or they're just starting. If you have the guts to get in the ring, you are learning how to deal with confrontation. That's why people are scared of fighters. Fighters have this mindset, not that I can beat somebody, but I'm willing to confront somebody. I work as a bodyguard now, and I teach personal protection. And I'm only 5'10", 170. I'm not big. But people hear my name and they think I'm 6'4", 240. I get the Roadhouse effect all the time. I thought you'd be bigger. But I'm ready for confrontation. To beat me, you're going to have to kill me. And to kill me, you're going to have to be willing to die yourself. And, there's not that many people with that attitude. But if I can teach people that attitude, there'd be less people being attacked.
Yeah. Now, sticking with MMA for a second, do you think with the explosion of the whole MMA world, it's really kind of killing off boxing as well?
Oh, definitely. Like I said, MMA is the new thing, and boxing killed themselves because boxing always got their champions from the Olympics. But now Olympic boxing, they've changed the rules so many times that even boxers don't understand the rules. And for the last 10, 12 years, there hasn't been a good boxer in the Olympics. Like taking 1976, you had Howard Davis, Leon Spinks, Sugar Ray Leonard. In 84, you had Tony Ayala, Aaron Pryor. You had all these great names. They all fought in the Olympics. And the Olympics made them famous, and then they turned pro. And then once MMA started hitting, all the boxing gyms needed to make money, so they started teaching MMA stuff. And, money talks.
Yeah, it
does. I can't even name a boxer today that's famous.
Yeah, it's like the sport has really just died off.
Yeah, because, again, it's like Gladiator. People like MMA because it's bloody.
Right.
And it's at its most animal. In boxing, I can take 20 jabs to the face to hit you with a right hand and knock you out. In MMA, I can't take a jab because those gloves don't allow it. They're 3 ounces. You hit me with a jab with an MMA glove, it's like getting hit with a right hand with a boxing glove. So it's like apples and oranges.
How about this? Does it aggravate you when you see all the people will go to like their local Target or Walmart and buy like all the what are the what's them UFC shirts, and you see all the guys thinking they're tough guys walking around wearing them?
The affliction shirts and everything.
That's
I think it's hysterical. It just shows. See, that's the thing. When I teach personal protection seminars, what it is that people are sheep. They follow whatever the trend is. I mean, if, there are sheep, there are wolves, and there are sheepdogs. The sheepdogs protect the sheep, but there's not enough sheepdogs out there. So a wolf will go after the weakest thing, and if the sheepdog doesn't get to him, you know, the sheep all run away, the wolf gets one sheep, the next day the sheep go right back to the meadow and act like nothing happened. I mean, one sheep will look at the other and go, hey, did you hear what happened to Bob? That doesn't happen. Sheep are ignorant. So people are blissfully ignorant. You know, but there are sheepdogs out there that try to stop the wolves from attacking the sheep. If I can teach people to be more like sheepdogs and be more alert and never quit and persevere, if a woman's walking down the street and a guy grabs her, right away they think, oh, it's a bigger guy, I can't do anything. Hey, stick your thumb in his eye. You know, it'll stop him. I don't care how big he is. But you have to have that confidence, and you'll be amazed when I do my seminars on personal protection. They go, oh, you want to teach me kickboxing techniques? I teach bouncers how to bounce in bars, and their biggest fear now is what happens if a UFC or an MMA guy comes into the bar. How am I going to stop him? He's an MMA guy. I go, get the MMA rule book. Look for all the illegal stuff you can't do in the ring and do it to them. Fight them, poke them in the eyes, grab their fingers, kick them in the groin, slap them in the ear. Oh, really? Yeah, it's illegal. And I've had things where I've ran bars and an MMA guy came in, got drunk, and I woke up to him and I had a UFC guy that got drunk and wouldn't leave the bar, and I went to him, listen, you got to leave. Oh, you can't make me. You know who I am? I go, yeah, and you know who I am? I'll make one call to Dana White, and he will not like it that I broke your shoulder. And you can never fight again. Do you want me to do that? Do you want me to make that call and say, hey, listen, one of your fighters got wise in my bar. I had to break his shoulder, so you can't use him anymore. I don't think your career is going to go really well. Now, could I break his shoulder? I don't know. But that's the psychology.
There you go.
Yeah, I have a really different way of thinking than most people.
Well, I wouldn't call it different. It's what you teach. It's positiveness and confidence in yourself.
Yep.
So there you go. It's the Magnus method.
Well, yeah. If you don't believe in yourself, how can anybody else believe in you?
Exactly.
The thing is, UFC guys, MMA guys, kickboxers, wrestlers, we're role models. I mean, people go, oh, wrestling is fake. Hey, let me tell you something. I've taken those bumps. It ain't fake. It's fixed. It ain't fake. Okay, because there were times I thought, oh, my God, kickboxing is 10 times easier than wrestling. How do you guys do this every day?
Right.
So,
now, how about you also do, or I don't know if you still do it, but you have done a celebrity bodyguarding.
Yes, I got hurt bad last year. I was bodyguarding a singer, and we were at a techno bar, and a riot broke out. I got her out the door, and I got hit in the back with a chair. 6 years ago, I got stabbed in the kidney, and then I got hit with this chair, and it re-ripped my kidney, and I didn't know it. And I wound up in the hospital, and then luckily a motivational speaker who I bodyguard is a close friend of mine. His name is Joel Bauer. He brought me into his house and made me stay because they told me I had to be in bed rest for a month. I went, yeah, that's going to happen. And he basically, him and his family, made me stay in bed for a month and took care of me. But then I was like, he convinced me, he went, Dan, you're not Batman anymore. You can't do this. You're 57. Why don't you just teach people how to protect themselves? Because bodyguarding, I used to bodyguard diplomats. Now, they have a danger. They could be killed.
Sure.
When you bodyguard a celebrity, you're a babysitter. You know who you're bodyguarding? You're bodyguarding them because they want to get drunk and they want to feel safe. And it's the worst job in the world. They pay well. Celebrity bodyguarding pays better than diplomatic bodyguarding. But you're a babysitter.
Who are some of the celebrities you've babysat?
I have a confidentiality thing. I can't really tell who I did on that.
They always get you on that little confidentiality thing.
Yeah, they do, because that's the whole thing. I can tell people that I've worked with Pam Anderson. I've worked with Des Cleo, who opened up for Katy Perry. I've done Kiss, but
Nice.
it's basically I'm not allowed really to say things. When you're
Right.
a bodyguard, you know things that no one else knows.
Right.
You get really personal with these people, and it really drives me crazy. Especially with the image everybody wants of them and how they really are. They're human beings like everybody else. And the hardest thing is, they don't want they want to be left alone, but they want the publicity. TMZ loves me and hates me. Because I let them take pictures of whoever I'm doing. I've just said, just don't jump in their face. Because that's what the paparazzi tries to do. They try to upset the celebrity so they can get the upset picture. When they see me, I go like this: take all the pictures you want, just don't get 3 feet in, don't get in their face. Well, let me tell you something. You get 100 paparazzi, even if they're like 6 feet away from you, flashing light bulbs for the flash is going on constantly for 5 minutes, you can't see. There's times when I got him into the limo and we got in there, close your eyes for like 5 minutes because of the flash.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
But like I said, it's a babysitting service. I've never really had anything bad happen with a celebrity. I've had to tell sometimes fans to go away, or leave them alone. I've bodyguarded a lot of porn stars who has the craziest fans in the world. Some of them have, it's like they're psychotic. And one of the, I have such great stories. The weirdest place I ever bodyguarded was I bodyguarded a porn star at the Adult Video Awards that are in Vegas.
The AVN Awards?
That was the AVN Awards. That was the craziest thing I think I've ever done. They act like it's the real Academy Award.
It's got to be like a lot of creepy people that you got to protect a porn star from.
Yeah, some of the porn stars, the ones need bodyguards. Some of the ones that do the kinkier stuff, they do it because they get paid. But you should see the fans. I'm like, I bodyguarded one porn star who really does kinky stuff. Her fans scared me. It was one of the few times I said I should be carrying a gun. They are creepy, and they just stare, and it's like, dude, you okay? Get out. Goodbye. Go. I love her. Yeah, okay, whatever.
And you know what? I'm sure there's a lot of them that probably think there's some type of connection, or there's some type of soulmate bond between the two of them, and they're meant to be. And
yeah, well, you're going to get that with anybody. That happens even with people that aren't famous. Somebody gets fixated with them. In regular celebrities or the porn stars, fans sometimes just go crazy, and if the celebrity, whether it's porn or non-porn, says hello to them or is nice to them, they think they love me.
Right.
And it's harder. I mostly bodyguard females because they're easier to bodyguard than males. Plus I can grab a female's hand and get her out of there fast. I can't really do that with a guy.
Yeah.
But the females are much easier to bodyguard because they listen. And with me, if I say we gotta go, there's no question. My word is law. And there's a lot of people that think, oh wow, look at this big bodyguard. He's called a target. Because I've used them before. If I know we're going to be at a big event, I'll get two of the biggest guys in a gym that I work out. Go, you want to make some money tonight bodyguarding? Well, I've never bodyguarded. No, you're not going to be you're going to look like you're the two big bodyguards. You're just a target. So whoever the bad guys are, they're going to go after you two first.
Oh, that's funny.
I said, just be happy I'll get to them before they get to you. Oh, it freaks them out. The big guys are panicking. The big guys are wait a minute, what do you mean I'm the target? Well, you're the two big guys. They're looking at how to take you down before they get to the celebrity. I said, don't worry about it. I'll get to them before they get to you.
Yeah. Dan, you are definitely a character.
I have been told that. Especially from Roxy Astor. She told me I was a really bad character.
Hey, you're not a bad character. You're a good character. You're a fun character.
Thank you.
Well, where can anybody get hold of you? Let's promote you have your website, themagnusmethod.com.
Yeah, themagnusmethod.com. I have a seminar in Tarzana, California on November 23rd. It's a 2-hour beginner seminar to see if people want to learn self-defense, but self-offense. And what I mean by self-offense is that they have an attitude that people won't mess with them. See, if you have to defend yourself, that means that person picked you as a target. Now, they might be wrong and get attacked, but if you have self-offense and you show that you're strong and you're not going to take any crap, predators leave you alone because they always go for the weakest person. So I don't like saying I teach self-defense because if you have to defend yourself, you've done everything wrong, and now you have to defend. But if it's self-offense and you're standing tall and strong and somebody goes, hey, I don't like you, and you go, well, I couldn't care less what you think. Oh, okay, I'm not going to mess with this person. I just say it a little more colorful than I just did.
Very good. You know, that was the one thing, too, when I was reading about you, that really stood out, and I really liked that whole thought process of that. Because, why should you have to defend yourself? You should be on the offensive to protect yourself and be confident in yourself.
The reason why, if you look at football has offense and defense. Offense gets the points, defense stops the points. But the way the sheep are, and the sheep mentality is, I don't want to be offensive. Well, then you want to be defensive all your life? Then you're going to be paranoid all your life. If you learn how to do a great offense, you're going to be able to be strong. Usually in football teams, the team that has the greatest offense is usually the best team. I mean, great defense is important. I'm not saying attack somebody, but if someone's going to bother you, you go do a self-offense on them instead of a self-defense on them, they're not going to bother you. They're going to say, oh, God, I made a big mistake.
Right. All right, everybody. Well, you can go to themagnusmethod.com to get hold of Dan and keep up to date with Dan and everything that he's got going on. You're also on Twitter, correct?
Yes, I am.
And that's
I'm
also,
on Facebook.
And you're on Facebook.
Just Dan Magnus on Facebook.
And on Twitter, it's Magnus Method, at Magnus Method.
Mm-hmm. That's
there you go. Dan, this has been a lot of fun. I want to thank you for calling in tonight and being a guest and sharing your crazy stories and your totally driven stories. And it's been a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
And can I get you to cut a quick ID for me, too, before I let you go? This is a former world kickboxing champion, Dan Magnus, and you're listening to Totally Driven Radio.
That'd be perfect. Would you like me to do it now?
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay. This is former 2-time world kickboxing champion Dan Magnus, and you're listening to Total Driven Radio.
Thank you. You're the man, Dan.
You're really welcome. All right. Thank you very much.
Take care. Say hi to Roxy for us, and we'll be talking soon.
I certainly will. Bye.
All right. See ya. All right, everybody. Dan the Man Magnus. I want to hang out with him because I know he will protect me, and I have nothing to worry about with him around.